Okay, we'll call to order the regular board meeting, September 11th, 2023 of the West Valley School Board is being recorded. Citizens may comment on items appearing on the agenda when invited to participate during the agenda item by the board chair. Citizens may comment on items related to school district business not appearing on this agenda during the public comment portion of the meeting. Citizens, after identifying themselves, will proceed to make comments as briefly as the subject permits. Basic rules of decorum are in effect at all times. The chairperson may interrupt or terminate an individual statement when appropriate, including when statements are out of order, too lengthy, breach personal privacy rights, are abusive, obscene, irrelevant, or otherwise improper. The public should realize that this is a trustee business meeting conducted in a public forum. We'll rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Without the consent agenda, we can entertain motion. For approval of the consent agenda.
I did see a typo, but I think it was on the minutes that I wrote, so. So maybe I'll correct my typo.
No blame, no blame. Which was that, Jeff? What were you thinking?
I'll get back, yeah.
Okay, so I'll circle back with you, and that was on 8/14, right? So,
Yeah.
thank you. All right, 8/24. Typo. All right, I'll
I'll
talk.
make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. All right, Mark is asked to abstain because he wasn't here for that. It wasn't a board member at the 8/14 meeting. So those of us here will vote for that approval of the consent agenda. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, the approval of bills. Mark, are you, do you have bills to approve there?
Yes, so those should, there's the attachments. There were a total of 660, I'm sorry, there were 66,378 dollars and 46 cents were claims for September to date. 14,234.66 were electronic claims. Those are all credit card claims. I wanted to alert the board, there was an ACH, so that's an automated clearinghouse electronic transfer. It's the way we pay our credit card bill. And that was paid on August 10th for the sum of $17,772.65. So there's a discrepancy. We actually paid more on our credit card bill than what we had in Black Mountain for charges. So what happens then is when I submit to get reimbursed from the county treasurer, we only get that $14,234 back, and we still have $3,700 some dollars pending that we're still owed based on what we've paid out. So there's some problems, it looks like, with getting all of our charges into Black Mountain during the end of July, beginning of August, that I'm going to need about 2 weeks to do. So what we're going to do is propose that if everyone is okay with what they see right here, we'd like to run a second batch of bills. So give me and Cindy a little bit chance to figure out exactly where that $3,700 is, get those entries into Black Mountain, and then bring those back to the board, most likely to Marilyn. I think you can represent the board. I think that's been done in the past. So there'll be a second batch of bills for September based on some missing information from the beginning of August and the end of July. So,
okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions? Remark on that? Right.
Make a motion to approve the September bills.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous approval. Do we have any correspondence? Did anybody sign in for, public participation? Do you have that one?
I had no one signed up.
No one signed up?
No. Mhm.
All right, thank you. We'll go on to the next thing. The West Valley PTO report. Do we have a PTO report? Okay, hopefully the PTO is,
They're working on stuff, because I was just talking with Shannon not
Good.
too long, like last week. And they're looking at a 2024 Harvest Fest. So, see what happens there, but
okay, we'll look forward to a PTO report in the near future, I hope. Okay, next, West Valley Teachers Association report.
There you go. All right, so, Marilyn, this is probably the same thing you heard last time I presented, so sorry.
Okay.
So my name is Claudia Anderson and I am the middle school mentor for new teachers. So when we say new teachers, and we ask for brand new to the teaching profession to participate in our program for 2 years and brand new to our building to participate for 1 year. And so the role of the mentor is to provide support, advice, and counsel to the new teacher, helping him or her to have a successful experience for their first 3 years in the district and the community. So the purpose is to learn our building, learn procedures, learn our culture. So you'll see some of those things down there, further down. There's so many things that you don't get taught in college about being a teacher that a new teacher needs, and a new teacher into a new building. Every building does it different. In my career, I've worked in several different buildings. Every building does everything different. So what I do as a middle school mentor, first of all, I'm not an evaluator, and that's important to a new teacher to know that I can ask this person a question and she is not evaluating me. So I do not evaluate teachers. I am there just for their support. We do monthly meetings to discuss necessary information in a timely manner. So tomorrow we're talking about how to put grades in Infinite Campus, right? Something that they need to know. The next meeting we'll be talking about parent conferences and how we do parent conferences here. Then cultural things like, what do we do for winter holidays? What are we supposed to do? Do we dress up? What do we do for that? And then a lot of our meeting time is classroom management tips, where we talk about, okay, I've got this issue, what can I do? And we talk about together ideas. I facilitate goal setting, so each of the new teachers and myself, actually, we all set a goal for the year. And then we work on those things, we give each other ideas, we talk about how it's going or not. And then I do one observation of them per year, although last year I set it up twice and twice we had no substitutes and that took that away. So having substitutes helps facilitate this because then I can get into a classroom and I can observe a new teacher. So in the past, I've had teachers say, all right, my goal for the year is to improve on transition times. So I lose time when we go from one activity to the other. Can you come in and watch that and see what's going on? So I go in, I watch it, and yeah, every time you transition, they are asking you questions that get you off track. And you lost about 10 minutes of instructional time to a conversation that is like, yeah, I kind of figured that's what you were gonna say. Anyway, so little things like that that I can watch for that you, as a teacher standing in front of a classroom, don't realize are even happening, right? And so I can look with those fresh eyes and say, you know, this, whatever, let's try that. So it's set to a goal. They set a goal. I come in and I observe according to that goal. The other thing I do is will help them set up observations with experienced teachers in the building. I go in and I could say, hey, Vonnie is really good at this. You need to set a time to go in and watch her start her class, right? How does she do that? How does she not lose 5 minutes at the beginning? So go in and watch it. And then we can all sit down at a later meeting and we talk. So what'd you see when you observed Vonnie? Or what'd you see when you observed whoever? And then we can talk about those things. And then just casual assistance as needed. If somebody says, hey, I have this issue, can you help me with that? Then I'm there for that. But that is pretty much,
How many teachers do you mentor on an?
right now I
average
have 5. I have 5 teachers. I'm trying to think. This year we don't have, we don't have any brand new to the profession. So they are all just brand new in our building. Last year we had a couple brand new to the profession and the building that are on their 2nd year with me. So, yeah. Any other questions I can answer for you? Great, it's fun.
Thank you very
I
much.
love it.
Thank you. Great.
Hey, principal reports.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's okay. I'm Sonia Jewett, K for instructional coach and testing coordinator for the elementary and the health test coordination throughout the school. And I want to talk right now about SBAC, which if you have kids in the school, you saw probably their SBAC scores last spring. It's the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium. And that is our math and our reading state tests. And then for 5th and 8th grade, it's also a science test in the spring. And I was going to come and share our data with you today, but it's actually released tomorrow morning. So it was a little too early for the board meeting, but I wanted to give you just a heads up that you can go to gemsopimont.gov. And I just typed in GEMS and it pulled it up. It was pretty simple. And then you'll be able to see our assessment data compared to other districts, Montana statewide. So I'd love to come and show that data and some comparisons at the next board meeting, but I wanted to give you the heads up that it's coming out tomorrow. And then on the instructional coach side of things, I kind of had a little celebration. We were trying to get a Wonders order. It's part of our Wonders curriculum for reading K4. And we needed some online platform. Some subscriptions had expired, so we needed some new subscriptions to the tune of about $8,000. And in visiting with the teachers, the 1st and 2nd teachers specifically, they don't use that as much in the classroom because they're teaching the kids to read. And 3rd and 4th kids are reading to learn. So there's a little difference there in their strategies when they're teaching. So we took all of the 1st and 2nd grade site licenses off. And then I talked to McGraw-Hill and they gave us some demo site licenses. So each teacher can use a demo, which was really kind of them to get us through, this time. And so we went from $7,874 to $3,140 and can still basically meet our needs. It'll be a little bit trickier, but it will be helpful for the teachers to have that. So just wanted to share that with you.
That's really exciting.
Yeah.
I was waiting for somebody to come tell us like we could spend less money on it. It finally happened.
Thank you, John. Okay, now, anybody else from the Teachers Association? My principals reports. Who wants to go first?
So, things are going well in elementary. Teachers have been working hard on their classroom compacts and kind of diving into curriculum a little bit more, especially this week. So it's kind of nice that kids are starting to get into their schedule and their routine a little bit more, and things are starting to fall into place there. Kindergartens had their first full day today, so it was kind of cool too to see them experience lunch for the first time ever and getting to the bus and all of those things. So went relatively well, all things considered, and it'll be a learning experience all week for them, but they're gonna get better and better. We started benchmark testing last week, which was also kind of exciting because we were able to start a little bit earlier this year than previously, and we hadn't started skills groups yet, so paras were available to help, and that made it a little easier to get through some things. And so we started that last week. We'll continue this week and in the next week and kind of see where our needs are and things like that as well. The mentor program for the elementary is in the works, so it's going to follow a similar outline to the middle schools, but I feel like it works a little bit differently you know, middle school and elementary are just so different. So that's in the developmental process, and I'll kind of keep you guys posted as we go through that. But we really don't have like brand new teachers or anything like that this year too. So it's almost kind of helpful because we do have this year to kind of figure out some of those kinks and some of those things and work together. So I'll keep you posted though as we continue to develop that. And the PTO is not here, but I was gonna just thank them because they got us whistles. So teachers have recess duty this year. And we did not have enough whistles for all the teachers to blow the whistle at the end of recess, and kind of ran into some problems. And so PTO came in and saved the day and bought us whistles. So thank them for that. And then a challenge we have had this year kind of stems around our para shortage and how it's affected our safety and our academics in terms of like our title groups and our special education groups. So I did want to present a little bit of data for you guys on that. I can figure out how to plug in here, and if anybody is good at this or wants to help, feel free.
Did she get your rose gold computer? I was disappointed to see that you're now with like
know.
a silver color instead of rose gold.
I know, most people are.
I'll note that.
Yeah.
It's in the
Make
notes.
sure it goes in the minutes.
It totally is there.
All right. Really, that's okay. Okay. So, I just wanted to show you a little bit of numbers here. It's going to show you that some of the safety concerns and then how it's kind of affecting some of our academics. So I was going to just start with our basic safety needs of covering like the lunchroom and recesses and things like that. So I organized, this one is just all about the lunchroom and coverage here. So I have the grade levels up top here. Oh gosh. Okay, go a little further away. And then the number of students below that. So like for kindergarten, we have 70 students in there. First and second kind of overlap. So for 10 minutes, there's 83 kids in there. For 10 minutes, there's 156 kids. 10 minutes, there's 73, and then 96 kids and 97 kids. So there's a lot of kids, a lot of bodies in and out. Below here is where I just put the names of our paras that are covering those positions. And the ones in red are sped paras. So technically, these are paras that really shouldn't be doing these jobs. And we're having to pull them from the jobs that they should be doing, like being with students and doing groups and things like that in order to meet our safety concerns. And so there's a lot of red across the board, and it takes up a huge chunk of our day that special education isn't getting, you know, the help that they need, and students aren't getting the help that they need as well. The safe ratio for an elementary lunchroom is 1 to 50. And so I just kind of color coordinated it here. So when we're using the sped paras, you know, it seems roughly that we're doing okay. Like we're in the green, but we have to have their help in order to do that. The only one, even with 3 in there, we're still not doing great for 10 minutes of that first and second lunch. But then I also wanted to just point out that we really shouldn't be using them for that purpose. That's not really their job. And so if I were to take out on this next chunk here, all of the people in red so that they could be doing their sped groups, we are really in the red and really not looking good for our coverage. And basically just one person in every single one of those slots. And so definitely a concern there. And then I made one for recess as well. So this is the same kind of layout with the number of kids in the room, and then who are the paras in there. Like I said, the red are the sped paras that we'd really like to have in other places, helping special education department. And so we're managing, you know, we've got some yellows, and the safe ratio for recess is a little different. So 1 to 35 is considered safe. 1 to 55 is considered acceptable. And then unacceptable is 75 to 1. And so we have a little more leeway there.
And so that's where we're roughly in the acceptable range. We're managing right now. What scares me is if we have one paragon, that number is gone. Like today, for instance, we had a paragon and we had to have Tanya and Anna, like we had to have people step out of their roles and already go fill in to make sure that we were at least in the acceptable range. So it's a little problematic. And then if you look down here, I just did the same thing. So I took out all of the sped paras just so we could see. And then we're like significantly in the red again and not in a safe zone. So it's definitely affecting, safety is a concern, but it's also affecting our special ed department and our title department. And with special ed, it's hard too, because we're kind of battling the legal obligations that we have with, IEPs, and they require a certain amount of minutes and instructional minutes. And then the ethical concern of just safety and making sure kids are okay. And so battling that ethical and that legal obligation is pretty challenging, and trying to figure out where to put people is challenging. So I was gonna let kind of Tanya speak on the title aspect of things too, and then Molly and Megan speak on the special ed side of things, just to kind of see the whole picture of how we're being affected. So.
Right, so this is harder to see, but as we were going through the
Anya,
other
can you,
numbers.
can you go up to, see where it says 100%?
Yeah,
If you make it maybe 150,
sure.
yeah, there you go.
As we were looking through the other numbers, it just came to us that it would be really helpful if you also could see our title numbers, because we're having to push all our sped paras title paras to sped, who are then trying to cover lunch. So we're just kind of moving everyone all around. And a little disclaimer is that we are still benchmark testing. So I had to use, so for instance, I didn't have scores down here, so I didn't do fourth for math, but, and then I had to use, some of this year's tests for third and fourth, and first and second, we're still really knee deep in the trenches of testing. So that's where these numbers come from. But basically, when I look at the title program, I know kids that are not falling under the umbrella of SPED do fall under our umbrella in title if they're 25th percentile and lower, but that's kind of an arbitrary number. That's not really, we don't look at a kid and say, oh, 26, you're gonna make it, you're fine. So when we're doing our skills groups and things, it's about way more than just that. But I had to give you some kind of a cutoff number for what we're looking at for title. 25th to 40th percentile, we're still super worried about those kids. They're really struggling. So I wanted to just give you all those numbers. But in first grade, 28 of the kids fall below the 25th percentile. Second, 12% at this point. Third, 15%, and fourth, 11%. So those are our really critical kids. Then if we add in our yellow kids, those are the ones I was just talking about who aren't quite as low. Well, right now in first grade, between first and second, I will say that those groups take place at the same time. So we're kind of in the middle of shuffling teachers around. So if you look at first and second as one level, we have 40 kids, and then come down here and we have a total of 4 teachers at that time that are title teachers. We have 4 more sped teachers. And so we have in title for all those kids, we have 11 spaces, because a sped teacher can't necessarily, in title, we try to do 6 kids in a group. A sped teacher can't necessarily do that. They might have some one-on-one groups. They might have a group that is low enough that nobody else fits in that group. So for all these first graders, even if you just consider 28, we have 11 spaces available for them in a small group. Second grade, 12 kids, 24 spaces. And that's why I wanted you to keep in mind, this is all one, because those are at the same time. So we're merging those groups around. If you look at third grade, we have 15 kids and we just have 15 spaces available for them, and that's utilizing the SPED teachers. And then fourth grade, we have 11 kids and 11 spaces of the critical kids. So reading was what we addressed first, which meant math gets even less than reading. So when you come down to the math level, our critical kids in first grade, there's 4. And I'll just go through the numbers. Second grade, there's 7. Third grade, there's 19. And then we don't have the complete data for fourth yet. and then our kids that aren't quite as critical. But we only have 4 math groups from title that whole time. So we have 5 grade levels of all those kids and 4 teachers who hopefully can teach 6 in each group. So about 24 kids for all 5 grade levels. Any questions?
So what I'm seeing is based on all these numbers, you have too many kids in need and not enough teachers to meet that need.
Right.
So there's kids that aren't.
That will address in
Getting
the classroom.
Okay.
Of course, we'll address that way. We'll, help the teachers differentiate. The teachers are already great at that, but, yeah, they won't at this point have intervention.
Title program that we've built up
Yeah.
over the years, we've been able to service a lot of kids and it's just non-existent this year, the bodies to teach those groups.
And early intervention, you really shoot for kindergarten, first, second. If you can get, if you can have lots of skills groups going and addressing all those kids' needs, it's so powerful. But, yeah.
Title I students in first grade at 28, that seems like a pretty big number. Do you know
It is,
what
and
that
so.
percent is?
Yeah.
Of how many, out of all the kids in
We have
first?
First grade, we have.
And one thing to address about first and second is we are in the middle of their benchmark testing, which they were kindergarten last year. So hopefully they've, they'll be a little more savvy with the test, they'll do a little, but they're coming to us, right?
Sorry, I was at 83 kids, so out of the grade, 83.
So that's a pretty big
Yeah.
percentage.
And that's back to how needy they are early on for intervention, and a lot of the kindergartners aren't coming with the same exposure they used to, knowing their alphabet sounds. So a lot of that is just really seen in those early numbers.
So historically, you've had enough people to meet the need.
Yeah, in the past, we've
Okay.
been able to, we've built a pretty strong title program, and then with not having pairs available, it's just dwindled.
Right.
And then when do you reassess them?
So we do benchmark testing in the fall, winter, and spring, and then there's those kids though that are kind of on our radars, we progress monitor them and do it more often.
Okay, so then technically we could see what their data outcomes might look like
Yeah,
compared to historical groups. I mean, I'm just thinking, odds are you're gonna possibly see a compelling argument for why we need a levy, why we need more funding.
definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
Now that this doesn't address kindergarten, then you're addressing the kids in first grade
Yeah.
that still are that percentage of them are low, even though they've been here for kindergarten, they still are, we have that many that are needing intervention in first grade.
Which might be a little bit of fallout, honestly, even from last year. We struggled last year to cover groups and we had to cancel groups a lot because paras were being pulled to sub in classrooms and things like that. A lot last year, we had staffing. It's even more drastic this year. But we did have some of that problem last year, which could affect student performance. And we might just be seeing some of that fallout this year a little bit now.
So you're pulling from scholastic for safety.
From special education.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Your emphasis is on pulling those paras for safety rather than on scholastic.
Yeah, that's what we're having to do. But then, like I said, it comes back to the legal obligation of SPED and the ethical obligation. So
My turn now. I'm gonna share a little bit more fun
It doesn't
data.
get better.
Right? Okay, so I'm Molly. I'm one of the elementary special education teachers, and I thought it would be helpful to share how many minutes a day we are legally mandated to provide in special education right now. So if you don't know, an IEP is written for an individualized education plan for each child to then have their educational needs met. Sometimes individually, sometimes in a small group. We don't like to get very big. But these are the minutes per day that we are, don't touch it, required to meet. So 2,264 minutes. Right now, I have myself and Megan, we are the special education teachers, Shauna, Alexa, and Carla to support us. We have 5 people. So we are missing 1,300 minutes a day in SPED right now. Now, keep in mind that it's not all one-on-one. A lot of this is met in small groups. But unfortunately, right now, our small groups are looking 6, 7, 8 kids. And that's not exactly individualized. So we have some more data here. So total minutes here,
divide that by 4, there's still 566. We're saying that's what we would like our intervention groups to be, our sped groups. So there's still 566 missing minutes. Now, we are borrowing a lot from title. That's what Tanya was sharing. Also, our sped paras, like Alexa, we only have 140 because she's doing art, she's doing lunch, she's doing recess. Shauna, we have the most. Carla's also doing a lot of recesses. And Mary and Blair are doing a lot of title. Well, not a lot of title. They're doing title when they can, and they're covering recesses. So we have 1,600 minutes available with all of those people. Divide that by 4, there's still 400 missing minutes. The difference here is 600 from this. So divide that by 4. So we're still missing 164 minutes with getting support from title, which if you look here, 164 is similar to about Alexa, who is only with us part-time. So legally, Megan and I are mandated to provide minutes for all these kids, and I don't have enough time in the day to do that, and I don't have enough people to do that. So I am out of compliance, which is not ideal. And I love my kids, and they need help. So this is my plug, I guess, to say we need help.
Well, that's not counting all your documentation.
No.
Time,
No,
which is substantial.
in meetings and everything. So yeah. Any questions on any of this?
Did somebody say that we bought our teachers whistles for, are they gonna help on the playground?
They are,
Taking
yeah.
shifts.
Yeah,
Do you have
teachers
some
are.
of the parents that?
They already are. This is all built
Okay.
into teachers. Yeah, out there now.
So these figures include our teachers being out there on the playground with whistles.
Yeah.
And so the parents can do their job without their kids.
I would like to point out what Tanya is, it showed, how many we have in first and second, and, I have a 4th grader who was a COVID baby, who did not get all of the interventions that she needed, and now she needs extra support. So right now, we have 17, special education kids in 4th grade. That is the highest number I have ever seen in 1st grade level, and they were the kids that did not get a full kindergarten year. They did not get intervention in 1st, and they barely got intervention in 2nd. So not only are we needing sped support, but the importance of having title and getting their interventions when they need it is very important, because then our numbers wouldn't look like this. I wouldn't be legally mandated to meet so many. So yeah, any other questions? I don't know
Yeah.
enough here, so
Plans.
yeah.
So this is like, would be amazing if this happened, but I have a lot of kiddos who go over their minutes. So legally, we do have to mandate reading and math, but if they're having a rough day, then they want to be in my room, or they need extra support, and they just come in my room and hang out now. I don't have anybody to go check on them. I don't have the resources to help them more. So it's almost like, nope, you can come for math and that's it, and we're not gonna say that, but this is legally what we provide, but we always are going to want to provide more.
The emotional
We
support.
just
that
don't
they
have it,
might
yeah.
need.
And Megan has like the life skills kids, so
Yeah.
those kids just naturally do need a lot more.
They need to get away sometimes.
Yes.
This is really helpful, a good way to look at it.
Yeah, really helpful.
Yeah, I had never actually looked at it myself, and I looked at it, I was like, holy fuck, it's no wonder I'm tired. That's a lot. Hey, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Can
Thank
you- Can you email that to us?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
Would you like it as part of the minutes? We could do that if you have a link to it.
I
if you'd
think it
like.
would be helpful.
Yeah, if you guys can send that file to me, I'll put it in the minutes, okay?
Absolutely.
Lindsay done? Middle school.
Student information, there are currently 347 middle schoolers up from the fall count of 337 last year. You know how many teachers were down on that, about 3, difference from last year in a couple of kids. So it's tight in middle school, classes are large. Counseling, the students reps have been selected for the homerooms, and the counselors are heading up the snack drive this week. Mrs. Thurman has started regular weekly meetings with students, and classroom instruction has started with the counselors. Notes from the teachers, they've had a lot of training since late summer and things that they're gearing up for in different areas just to strengthen. 71 of the West Valley staff members participated in threat assessment training through the University of Montana during our open PIR time, and there'll be growth coming off of that for the whole district in the area of safety. Teachers attended the OPI Summer Institute. They've been to math onboarding, the Northwest Montana Reading Council Literacy Conference, Discovery Education for Science, and then leadership team has been meeting for school-wide behavior and culture. So different areas that they're training in. This is a talk to the teacher mentor training program. Claudia mentioned, some of the legalities in that and the support that she provides for teachers, just for them being in a new environment. But one of the number one questions we get from incoming candidates, especially if they're a new teacher, is do we have a mentor program? And I don't know if they're training on that coming out of the universities, but they're definitely interested in that. And when we look at retention, I think it's very important for the quality of teaching and for our culture for kids and families to be able to have similar teachers, in their careers of family coming through the school, that the retention is very important. And many of them have spoke to me that have gone through the program with Claudia about what that meant to them to have somebody there. So I'm thankful for that. Academics, we just entered the STAR testing window, which is the benchmarks for math and reading to determine students in need of extra support. Also paraprofessionals and Terry have been measuring the oral reading fluencies for all the 5th and 6th graders. So we have an idea from last year, students who will need support, but we like to check that. There's often a lot of growth at this age, or we see a widening gap where it might let us know that we need to give an additional consideration for special education. It might have been looked at closely when they were younger and didn't quite qualify, and we might see the gap at that middle school. Athletics, the volleyball and football have both had very successful starts. And that's all I have for those. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We will go on to the action items. Review it, number between.
I won't be offended.
What?
You just keep.
I'm sorry.
I'm good. If you just wanna just skip that part. I've got no good news. So anyway, I just wanted to mention a couple of things that happened since we last met. And funny enough, I was asked to speak at Rotary during their meeting last Thursday, which was a really interesting experience. I've never had any type of interaction with that group or been invited before. So they wanted me to speak about West Valley and some of the things that we're facing. And I did talk a lot about some staffing. So I went and our demographics inside. So just some interesting facts, because when I was asked, I asked them, well, what do you want me to talk about? And they said West Valley. I was like, that's pretty broad. What do you want me? So I said, I better find out something about West Valley. So I went digging and found out that the original 3 classrooms up at the top were about 2,400 square feet in buildings, and we are now over 93,000 square feet, which is pretty incredible. There have been 17 major building projects at the school since 2010. Of course, most notably is the thing right behind me with 34,500 square feet added. Then I talked about our growth over the last 10 years, from 2011 to 2021, increasing by 58% or about 5.8% per year. The only one closest to us was Big Fork at 2.2% per year. And they were pretty shocked about that. I told them that sustainable growth is around 2%, 3% is kind of a stretch. Anything higher than that is where you start to run into a lot of trouble and problems. So it was kind of good to put that in perspective for them. I dove in a little bit to some of the elementary districts in the state of Montana, as well as just the entire state and the district demographics. And in terms of Montana districts, we're actually a very large district. I think it's kind of like we have this reputation out there that we are still this, farm school out there in West Valley. but we're actually in the top 10% of districts, even the K-12 ones in the entire state. We have like Billings, of course, is the largest by far, but if you look at Billings just in terms of their elementary students or K-8, it's 11,000 plus kids. Kalispell, about almost 4,000, 3,000 in there, 3,500. Columbia Falls, then Whitefish, then us. So even if you compare our district to the K-12s in the state, we're ranked 39 out of 400. So it's pretty interesting stuff. We are the second largest K-8 in the state of Montana, out of 235 of them. And we operate with about 90 employees daily, which is it's a lot of moving pieces there. I talked about our trouble in finding classified staff, partly due to budget constraints, but also partly because of the pay that they get. I plugged in, first of all, they were shocked at the average, or not the average, but the starting base pay without any degrees or any experience is $12.84 an hour. When if you work one of those years, you're making $18,000 a year, which is, so if you multiply it by 8 hours times 180 days, it's a really hard sell, to get someone to come work for you, because you'd have to work 11 years at West Valley to make what you would start at Panda Express. So that's over a decade of work for that. So also talked about the challenge of teacher retention, which I think we will start to see not only everywhere, but here as well. Montana has the lowest starting salary average in the United States, right at 32,500. In the Flathead Valley, it's around 35 to 36,000. But if you look at our high cost of living, that's an incredible challenge to even figure out how to live here. I was hoping that Stephanie could correct me on this, because I just went to realtor.com and did their search and stuff, and for the zip code of 59901, the median home sold price in 2023 so far as of August was 482,000. The average list price in 2023 till August is 729,000. So it's really hard, even if you have a spouse who makes a median income in the valley, even putting your two salaries together will still prevent you from reaching a lot of the homes out there. There are currently about 500 homes for sale in that zip code. And the job is becoming increasingly difficult too. We've seen really high need. Kids are coming to us with very, very high emotional and academic needs. There's an article in the Beacon that I pointed out, and I think it's really well done, from September of 2022, and it's how Montana is trying to solve its struggles with teacher pay. So if you get a chance to check it out, do so. I guess the theme going forward is that we've got a lot of challenges ahead, not only as a school, but I think as a profession. So I'm excited to solve or help solve or provide solutions to those challenges. But yeah, it's going to take a really strong board like you guys to do that. So I think that that's one of the opportunities that I presented to, is that we've got some really good people in place, and so it's our turn to kind of say, all right, what can we get done, and let's go do it. But anyway, I spoke to our culture a little bit and gave some results from our surveys that families did, teachers did, and then the third and fourth graders did last year, which were pretty fun. I will highlight at the very end, I told them that we know that this third and fourth grade survey is valid, because one of the questions they asked was, what 4 phrases best describe what adults say most of the time to you at school? And the top answers were 1, do what you're told, and 2, be quiet. So they're not afraid to tell us what they feel. Yeah.
But you did just, there were about 75 people.
Yeah, about 70 people in there. It was in Buffalo Hills restaurant. Every table and chair was used up, and people standing. So it was, hopefully a good way to get that ripple out, to the community.
Start the levy.
Yeah.
Feel like it
yeah,
was well received, like.
Very well
comments
received,
and-
yeah, and a lot of shocking information for people, which I think is our job. One person, because I did a Q&A after, and then one person said, well, why do you think it's been so hard since 2007? Both you and Kalispell can't pass a levy, Kalispell being high school levies, not elementary levies. And, I said there's multiple factors in that, but one of the big things is that teachers are humble people. We are really not very good at telling our story, because we think that when we point out really, really cool things and really good things, we're bragging. And so just naturally, we've got to get over that and start bragging on ourselves a little bit, that, hey, we've been able to do some pretty amazing things and accomplish some great things without, the community supporting us with more. So I think that, they kind of will hopefully see that we're doing what we can to save as much money as we possibly can, and nobody asks for a levy if they don't need it. Because nobody wants to do the work to do it. It's incredibly tough, and it's not within our moral code to ask for money we don't need. I think the other one too is that we're really fighting a tough national narrative out there, and that's going to be something that we come up against, I think, and it's going to be tough because election years are coming up too, and 2024 in May is going to be a presidential election, and there's going to be a lot of discourse, and there's going to be just a lot of, I think, narratives that we have to overcome. And it's so far it's not necessarily a positive narrative out there, so we have to turn that around, I think, and get some good truth out there, so that we promote ourselves a lot. And anyway, so yeah, that was really well received. Got a lot of really good questions, and one question someone asked too is, why don't we just divide the district, to save? And I said, quite honestly, that's a question a lot of people have, but when you start looking at, saying, okay, well, West Valley is going to just do K6 or K5 district, and we're just going to get rid of our middle school kids. I said, first, that's financially devastating to a district because of the way that they're funded, and that would take away a giant number of our A and B. At the same time, where do those kids go? They've got nowhere to go either. It's not like Kalispell has tons of room to, open their doors and say, yeah, come on down. So, and it takes, board approval from both ends. And quite frankly, that's just not something that's in the cards right now. So I think a lot of people do wonder, well, why can't districts just, cut ties and say, we're too big for you? But we can't turn anybody away, right? That's our job. Whoever shows up at the door is someone we have to teach.
Well, like you said, it's a zero-sum game. They have to go somewhere.
Right.
And like, it's not as if KMS has all this extra capacity
Correct.
and wants, is able to bring in 100 or 200 kids.
Correct.
Nor do we have any excess capacity to bring in.
Right.
So it's, at some point within the community of the Flathead Valley, the tax base, is going to have to support this level of,
Right.
students and support their needs for, quality education.
Right.
Hopefully they do that with us through this additional levy, and then hopefully doing things like this, talking to Rotary, et cetera, as you get some sort of a feedback loop to the state for some improvement in funding. And even going back to what we were talking about with the SPED, et cetera, I saw in, who knows what it'll really do, but in Arizona, the state passed, I think it was, $50 million for basically additional tutoring programs, like, direct from the state and the school districts, just things like that could help with this catch, at least help restore and catch kids up to kind of the more normal performance. And I would hope that we could get something like that done through the state, especially with the amount of surplus funds that they, are sitting on right now.
Exactly.
So that would be a pretty good utilization of it.
Definitely. Someone brought that up too, and that was a great question. Is we had this giant surplus, or how does that work then? And someone brought up, which is good idea. Where's the marijuana money, that we were supposed to get, or whatever. But yeah, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered for schools in general, because we're often overlooked when it comes to impact on a new development, for example, or
And I agree with you, it just seems like when you're able to go sit down with somebody and tell them the realities of what's going on in school.
Right.
And this is where we're starting, you know, staff at, this is what we rank at nationally for teacher pay. This is where we're at, you know, from kind of a class size perspective. I think people realize, oh, it's completely different than what they assume it to be. Where they potentially assume that, you know, there's a lot of excess and overhead here. No, that's not the case. I mean, it's run at this point, as we just noticed, it's run currently at the bare minimum. And it's not like we're putting money in the bank. So we just desperately need more funding.
Right, yeah.
What kind of scares me, I don't understand what charter schools are totally, but I hate to see our legislature pointing that out as an alternative, rather than giving the existing schools more money, trying to start a system of charter schools. And I'm not even sure what it entails. The MTSBA isn't sure what it entails yet, because they said the law isn't clear enough to even determine, but that scares me because I think that's likely to pull some of the funding that we do get from us and put it into a different system. And that to me is really scary.
With no current levels of accountability to Department of Ed.
Yeah,
It's curious. It's truly curious.
it is. It's curious and scary because, anyway.
And I think that gets to the national narrative as you look at public schools in larger metro areas, and they're struggling or failing from an educational standpoint. And I feel like our story, you guys are doing a great job educationally, top notch. I don't think there's any chance that a charter school is going to be able to educate kids better than what you guys are doing. Nationally, that's not the story though. And so you might get that, unfortunately, that might be one of those narratives that you have to combat, say, hey, you want a great education, come here.
Right.
You know, this isn't, you're not dealing with a poorly performing public school here. We have great public schools around.
Exactly.
Now, when you do come here, fund them.
Sure, yeah, right, yeah, exactly. So
Right.
let's put our money here and make everything a lot better.
That's right.
Out
But
of 53% growth, how many new students is that over 10 years?
oh gosh, I really don't know the answer to that. I would have to kind of look at my old numbers. I have them, but
Do you know how many students are currently enrolled?
it's 776, I think, around there, 779 when I took a look at this. But yeah, it's right around in there, hovers around 800 south of that. A little bit, so.
And then you know, that you said 35 to 36,000 is average for Flathead. How does West Valley compare to that for starting?
It's right at that, I think, isn't it? Or, you know,
Yeah, you
Like the
gotta look,
beginning.
so there are a couple different ways you can look at it. You can look at what our zero step is on the, so I think the best way to do is say, look at the contract salary matrix. And the zero step will tell you what a new teacher fresh out of school with no experience will make. That is one way of looking at schools. There are other ways of looking at schools too. What is the average salary? What's, so there are different ways, but one way we should look at is, I think, what's happening with junior teachers, and can we attract and retain them based on the salary schedule? I think that's kind of what Richard was talking about. That.
And so our zero steps 38,000.
What'd you say the average was?
State average.
I didn't say
Flathead, you said was 35 to 36,000, right?
right.
mistake.
And of course, you'll have some that are higher, and some that are lower that drag that one way.
It's a lot cheaper to live in, out on the east side.
Right, and that's very true. We have a very desirable area to live, so we can attract teachers, but a lot of those districts are struggling a lot.
Even if they have cheap housing.
Right. So we have our first boardmanship training coming up Thursday. First one is roles and responsibilities of the superintendent and board chair. So I'm excited to know what my role is. I'm still kind of discovering, like blindly walking through the hallway. We've lost almost all of our AC from the 2001 edition. So that's why it's been partly why it's been so hot in the building. And that just goes back to more of our facilities maintenance issues that we've got going on. There's a lot. The parking lot will need to be crack sealed before the winter. There's some pretty big areas where if we don't do something about it, or at least tidy it up a little bit, water's gonna get in there and start to break it up. Kind of behind on that, I think. The regardless parking lot will need to be repainted in June. So that's also coming up on our next cycle. You'll see part of one of our action items tonight is the FICO agreement, and so that'll be on there for you to look at. It's controls all of our units on there, and it's one I mentioned last time that is controlled through Great Falls. We're watching right now the proposed Title I funding legislation at the national level. So for 24-25, right now the current House budget would decrease funding for Title I by about 28%. If you break it down, so what that means to us is a complete elimination of Title II funding is proposed, and an 80% decrease overall in Title I. The proposed Senate bill would decrease federal funding by 1%, which is a much more doable, I guess, proposal. However, one thing you'll notice is they're both going down. So that would kind of hurt a little bit. So hopefully we get some good news on that. Yeah.
This is federal, right?
Federal. Yep. It's federal money. So yeah. But yeah,
Hopefully they're increasing their prison budgets,
that's
because
right. Yeah.
that's where it trickles to.
That's where it trickles down. Yeah. And I wanted to point out that got notification today that K-PAX featured a story on West Valley and Kalispell today. So check it out if you haven't. It goes back to, again, the teacher pay and retention and staffing challenges that districts face. And by next board meeting, we'll have our October A and B count as well. So
Is that news thing worth sharing out on West Valley social media?
I have not seen it yet. I just, the person who wrote it told me that it was there, Kiana. So, but I'm not sure. So I don't know yet. But yes, yeah, it's good. I think we're starting to build a good partnership with them. She said that she really liked to feature West Valley in more media and get us some more, exposure. So hopefully we can tell our story through that, and maybe reach out to some other media groups to get our story out about the levy. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Now we can go on to the action items. Review and acknowledge claims from June, July, and August.
So at this point, it's a bit of a formality, but there are claims reports for, that's what the links are for the months there with June, July, and August. We've already paid those bills. We just didn't have board meetings to approve them. So really, that's the formality, that basically you guys recognize that they're acknowledged that those have been paid. Not everything got paid. So there will be some catch up. That's part of what I mentioned earlier on with the second round of bills. For example, I just learned on Friday that Blue Cross Blue Shield bills for our retirees had not been paid since we switched over. So it's going to be about 20 grand. So there are some things that happened over the summer that I'm going to have to highlight for you guys. So,
And does that hit last year's budget, or does that?
no, that hits this year's. Yeah, so it'll be July. It's a July 1 to July 12. There's about 5 grand there, and then it goes the middle of the month to the middle of the month. And so there's some of those things we're gonna have to absorb. So
Did we have that budgeted, or is that a surprise?
that should have been budgeted. Yeah, we've had some other things that have been unbudgeted, some that have hit us too. So really what I'm gearing toward is by the October meeting is to have what the other schools have for you, which is a report of our spend versus budget by the 12 different fund categories in detail. So you've been, let's say through, you've been through 12% of the year. Have you spent 12% of your budget, or how, what type of detail you have? That's what the other schools work off of. That's what I think the board should have here. And so we're gearing to have that for you by October.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, do we need a motion to,
Motion to acknowledge claims from June, July, and August 2023.
I'll second.
any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, unanimous. Okay, the board meeting scheduling, start times, Mark, have been good enough to put that out. An email to all board clerks to, show us where everyone else is having their meetings, what time, of the day, and it ranges from 7 a.m. in the morning until 7 o'clock at night, any time. And it seems as if they vacillate. They're not always the same. They go with one time, like I think Kylie's going with 3:30 because they thought 5 o'clock was too late. I mean, they're all in a quandary. Nobody has.
It's very much board
perfect
discretion. So whatever, I think it's kind of driven by the nature of the work that the board has, from what I got from all the other clerks. So that's up to you. What does seem to be trending in a direction is recording. So I sent you guys the information on House Bill 890. There's a direction, both legislative, from a legislative standpoint, and also from a district standpoint, to try and be more transparent and to document what's going on. And so both Big Fork and Kalispell are looking at recording, going to recording there, doing what we're doing right now. So we're, as I can tell, we're the only district that does this, but
I talked to Sue Corrigan this afternoon, and she said that they have theirs on, is it YouTube?
that's where ours is too. Ours
That's
is
what,
through YouTube.
that they record their meetings on YouTube.
Yeah, we do it through Zoom and then upload it to YouTube. So
Okay.
it's off their
Okay.
server. Is
Yeah,
what
she
we,
was like you said, she was saying, it is not wise right now to decide to not record our meetings after we've been recording. And she said, no, as you did, the trend is towards recording. Because there's really nothing against it, except that it's pain to the archives part of it to keep it all straight. But really, there's no downside other than that, for us anyway.
I think it's a good idea. I
I
agree.
do too.
You know, I don't, for us to stop now.
What we need to do is we need to get a bunch of subscribers, and then we can start doing ads. and stuff. Yeah. That's what everybody does, right? We could become the first school district influencer.
TikTok.
Yeah, right.
I do like the idea of doing Zoom meetings, but I think I was reading maybe in one of those emails you sent that maybe there's problems with, figuring out who's in attendance, that type of thing, but I don't know. I think for like, if a parent wants to attend from home, it would be nice if they could watch what's going on.
That's true.
And I guess another thing about the time, I don't personally care, but is there a reason why you were thinking we would change the time? I mean, I thought maybe if teachers wanted to attend, maybe it's better to have it right after school or something, but.
I think the reason why we were talking about it is we've always kind of vacillated between 4 o'clock and 5:30. And, we opted with 5:30 for the board meetings in hopes that we would get more public participation, people on their way home from work. Well, you can see how successful that really is. We have, that really hasn't happened. And yet now, the teachers have to wait another hour and a half, and it puts us all an hour and a half later getting off. So, that's one of the reasons we thought, well, maybe we'll go back to 4 o'clock and then be easier on the teachers, because it looks as if the people aren't stopping by on their way home from work anyway. And that's why I thought it was, we need to open that up for discussion to see, because we have had board meetings lately at 4 o'clock. And have those worked out better, or do we need to keep it later? And what does everybody think? That was the discussion I think we need to have.
I'm sorry, I cut you off too, about your response about Zoom.
Oh, this Zoom, yeah, we can coordinate that. That was through COVID. When I was in a different state, that was a thing to do, and it kind of went away after the COVID experience, but if it's something we want to do. Another note just for everyone to consider is that our current policy is that, and as I've been going through our policy manual, it's that the board meetings start at 5 p.m. It's nothing we can't change. We just need to make sure that when we do something, we're updating our policy.
We changed it,
And
but
it did,
then it wasn't changed in the policy manual.
My preference would be, for the regular meetings at 4. I'm flexible though. It's just, I feel like it's, again, you guys are our typical participants and that seems much more convenient for you. It works for us as well. So I think that would, again, we tried the 5:30 and, I think we've had 1 or 2 participants outside of teachers. Obviously people can still come at 4, if they feel the need to. And maybe we open it up on a Zoom scenario if they want to. And, but I think that'd be more convenient for the majority of the attendees.
I do, and I just appreciate the teachers' presentations, like today, that presentation was great. And when they get kids and we have those presentations, those are great, and it would be much easier to have those at 4 o'clock instead of 5:30. So I think there's all kinds of positives for 4 o'clock.
If we do Zoom, could we get, could participants do public comment on that if they're not present?
The degree of difficulties going up there. I would say yes, I think what we've done when we did the board, when we did the steering committee for the bond for the new edition, that was all Zoom. And so that worked fine.
Yeah, you can do it. You can on Zoom, like if you're the moderator,
Yeah.
a participant, in the public comment, that you can ask for public comment, that they could raise their hand.
Yeah.
And then the moderator will select them and they can speak and then they can.
We might want to, we could try Zoom, having people come in on Zoom as a trial and see if it's disruptive or if it works for people. It really, right?
Thank you, Mark. I don't want it to be real disruptive to the meeting.
No, I think they would
Because
you'd have to allow them in or something.
Yeah.
I think they have better controls on it where you can, mute them and.
Yeah. But it seems like it'd be nice if someone could comment if they were at home and they were to say something.
I guess we need to go back to that. This is a trustee business meeting conducted in a public forum. And so we need to be careful that we don't skew that emphasis to public participation when actually that's where we're gonna be discussing these working sessions, and they can come to those and express their opinion of that.
Well, board meetings is generally where one would want to do that. I guess that would be my only, and I can't speak to historically, what attendance there's been, you would know better than I. That would be my only hesitation with moving it back to 4 is just public access and perhaps that sense of, well, if they're making it harder for me to come. But at the same time, I mean, if we look at, yeah. If we look at what's been happening.
Since you've been on
It's
board, how
teachers
many
here.
people have
Yeah.
we had come in the door at 5:30 for work?
2.
I don't think, yeah, I don't think
That
very
very
many.
yeah.
And that's where, I can remember Cal said, when we switched it over, he said, well, it's not gonna make a difference. Because he said, we've done that before. It's like every school district, you try it one way, they turn around, you go back the other way. It's just, at least we're not having ours every single meeting at 7 a.m. I think that's, who's having one at board, and they're trying that, the other 3:30. I mean, there's all kinds of things, that, and if we're consistently at 4 o'clock and we offer the Zoom option, I think that's friendly for our parents and our people in that area.
I think getting the word out too the second Monday of the month if they don't remember
Mhm.
what's coming up. So I don't know what the best way to get that information out is.
We put it on the marquee though. don't
Yeah,
we,
but-
Actually,
Oh, I
No,
don't
board,
think
board
so.
meetings
Maybe
just show
we
up in the event section. We don't, there's a, there, it doesn't show up on one of those tiles at the bottom.
I mean, truly, if we were to do this, the way I think it should be done. You know, ideally, it would be marquee, it would be in the newsletter. That we would actually have our schedule listed out on our Board of Trustees page on the website. You know, cause second Tuesday of the month, like that. I wanted to come to a couple meetings, and like you space it out, like that's, it's just part of, you know, life and going through the motions, and everything's so fast paced these days, I think. I don't know, I think if we can communicate more through the newsletter too, with just periodic updates of the big key things. I don't know, I think accessibility could be significantly improved in terms of just communication.
Well, we want to pull people in over the next year, right? You know, create more involvement. So I think all those ideas are great. You know, we want more people to come and hear what we're talking about, hear the story and everything. So whatever we can do there is a good idea.
but I think that anybody who's truly interested in coming, there are ways they can figure out when we're having a meeting. It's not like they change. It's not like they change one day, they're one day, you know, and that's why I want to, it's really important that we keep them consistent. And we have kept our board meetings consistent. It's these special meetings that kind of a little iffy here and there, but our board meetings are very consistent, and we'll stick to that. If we decide we're gonna move them to 4 o'clock on the second Monday. And one of the reasons they did that is because it doesn't interrupt with holidays. We don't have to worry about Thanksgiving, Christmas on those days. So, you know, we should be able to just say that 4 o'clock, second Monday of the month. Everyone welcome. Like, although we need to decide, I guess, whether we do want it back. Sounds like we do.
So the way you send out like the newsletters, those go out every Friday or whatever.
Who does the newsletter? I don't do the newsletter. Brooke should send
I just wonder if when there's a board meeting coming up, if that
That's a good
could go
idea.
out
Definitely
to
could go.
everybody,
Totally.
you know, like the Friday before the board meeting or
Mhm.
something.
That's good. Put that in, put that right in.
Cause even like, if you put it in the newsletter, someone might, if it's a separate notification, they get it. So they're interested, but
Okay.
Yeah. Good idea.
And then I think that really it doesn't seem to matter what time we have it, like if we're having it at 4 and somebody wants to come, they'll make it work in their schedule.
Or they can email, you know, or Zoom. Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is I just wanna see, I think there's more we could do to put it out there. I mean, same with like emailing the teachers the agenda. Like, it's easy to say, well, they should know. But at the same time, like, when we get all caught up in the motions, just having that reminder of, you know, hey, upcoming, here's what we're gonna be talking about. Like, the little things that we can do, at least then we're saying like, we're doing X, Y, Z, join.
We'll continue to do that, right, Mark? We'll continue to email the teachers.
Currently, we're just doing you guys email and then everyone else can access it. We can do another email. I've had a few teachers say they don't want more emails, so there's just different opinions on this.
You're posting the agenda at different places in the school.
Yeah,
Okay, is that enough, or should we email the agenda to the teachers?
so,
That was what we had, that had been suggested, at one of our meetings, and that was, and Cecilia began that idea. Should we continue that?
are we looking for more teacher involvement or public involvement?
Both.
Just, yeah,
Okay,
even just the ability to peruse the agenda, and then if an item speaks to them, if
Sure.
they're more inclined to come.
all right, we can do that.
And then, of course, it is on our website, so for the public, if they see in the paper, they realize it's the second Monday, they can always go to our website, download the agenda that I put out for that.
Yep.
48 hours before the meeting.
do you want more people at the board meetings or at work sessions? How are you, how do you
meetings.
think you want them at board meetings? Okay, so work sessions want to keep more.
The idea of work sessions would be just more informal conversations and us getting a chance to kind of chew on some of the stuff that's gonna be coming up in upcoming sessions, as well as things to be aware of what's happening in the school. Probably processing some levy stuff, that sort of thing. So basically, for us, the idea of a works, or at least when Richard and I have been talking about work sessions and how other schools use them too, it's basically to get ahead of issues rather than reacting.
And the public can come to those. if
They
want.
can.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's open participation pretty much. So that's where I'd like to let teachers, for me, that it's important that teachers come to the work sessions. You know, just remembering the past few meetings we've had where we depend upon teacher input so much for what we needed to do. And I would like to have that interaction continue if we could at the work sessions. And that's why,
Work sessions are more informal.
yeah,
You're looking for participation.
that's right.
You're looking for attendance at board meetings so people have more, because there we really, there are gonna be a lot of approvals and things, and you may not want as much input. We gotta get through that stuff.
That's
so,
right. That's right, because it's supposed to be a business meeting.
Yeah.
And that should be, all the other stuff before that.
It's kind of a
Final
funnel coming
business
into that.
part should
Gotcha.
be funneled right in.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's where these working sessions will come in, and I guess we need to look at Laurel's plan for those. Did everybody have that in front of them, so we kind of look at this, so, I was fine with them, and these will be at 7:00 AM. How about, is that a good time for everyone? Stephanie said it was for her.
The work session. Yep.
Yeah, for the work session. That'll, once again, there's no reason to have them be at 4:00.
It'd be on Thursdays,
Be it
before
Thursday.
Thursday of the month, although because of holidays and spring break and stuff, there's a couple that get moved around there. I mean, the major kicker is just that there's not a lot of space during, you know, school hours, and then also it cuts teacher ability to kind of come. And then for some of the board members, it was after school, trying to juggle kids, work, all that sort of thing. You know, that becoming an issue. And I don't know, has Stephanie given an opinion about start times, like
She said that worked for her.
4 would work for, her,
Yeah, I think she.
or 4,
Oh.
4 for the board meetings, so.
I didn't talk to her.
She
about
just
that.
is gonna have 4, I think.
Okay.
I've heard before from her, she just,
So we're looking at board meetings at 4 PM and work session. That's still second Monday of every month. And then work sessions at 7 AM on the, was it the fourth
4th
Thursday?
Thursday.
of each?
except for the ones that had been moved on to her.
Yeah, so exceptions would be, Thursday, November 30th had to be moved because of Thanksgiving, so that
Right.
pops it back, and then Christmas break, and then spring break.
Right.
And then Memorial Day.
And do work sessions have agendas as well, so people know?
Not necessarily with some of the schools that we talked to.
Okay.
Maybe a topic or something.
Yeah, so
That's right.
Richard and Marilyn could develop the agenda, but like, that's not something that's going out and like posted on the school doors or anything like that.
You have some talking points.
That's right. It having to do with what's coming.
Right.
You know, with what's pertinent at the time.
Right, yeah, yeah, and so for example, like some of these things in the action items, we could talk about beforehand, give examples of that, you know, when we hire someone, or we recommend to hire someone, we could have just the basic info for you, like this person taught here, this many years, blah, you know, bang, and then you kind of like, okay, can digest it, and then at the board meeting, either approve or not, kind of thing, so it's more informational to get these board meetings to where they're functioning a little quicker with less, you know, input, where that input comes in at the work session.
What
Or
about,
not input, I mean, you know, discussion about something that we could have talked about beforehand.
right, right. And, you know, I think you should question mark here about whether or not we need to just skip the Christmas one. I'm all about we need to have one in Christmas, in December. December always seems to be such a busy month. Should we just skip it? Or,
Let's just wait and see, and then we could cancel it.
Yeah.
I'd like that, but see, that's what I'd like to have this. Like you say, get a schedule that's on the website, so that people know, this is your schedule, this is when the meetings are. So, but I guess we could, that one, we do need to change that Thursday to October the 26th.
I did.
Good.
It's, yeah, it's up to the, the Google Docs.
Sometimes that causes all kinds of. And so that the 26th. As far as I'm concerned, so we'll just leave the Christmas break in there, or leave that December 14th in there. We don't know, maybe there's a hot topic we need to discuss. So let's leave it.
Well, we've been meeting like
Yeah.
6 times a month, so. I hate to jinx ourselves.
You know,
Right.
we missed that. We didn't. As far as I'm concerned, and you moved that one, you, 1 week ahead for Thanksgiving. So it's not
Well, yeah, I mean,
very-
otherwise it was
Yeah.
on Thanksgiving,
Yeah,
so,
right.
yeah.
So that was it, but you moved the Christmas back, which is fine. So, yeah. Laura's done a great job on this, I think. I would be okay with this myself. Like I said, and then we'll just switch. We'll may have to change it from 5 o'clock to 4 o'clock on the meeting time.
Yeah, I can easily find and replace that.
And then we'll, just post it on our website. Be a good start for getting organized. All right, so I suppose, let's see,
Should we just, double check, like, do we have other districts that are posting kind of schedules like that, kind of, features that are,
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's like some language you gotta throw on there or
Yeah.
I
something.
know Evergreen does, but I
Okay,
can't
alright.
speak for others.
It
Yeah.
seems very appropriate.
Right, I know Kalispell has committees for their board
Mm-hmm.
that they, meet regularly and they
Yeah.
post those and they post the, discussion topics and things like that.
Right,
But
okay.
it's a little different than this. but-
this would be just an overall one, and we also then put it in the newsletter for the, right before the meeting, so that it would, even though this would be permanently posted. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think it occurred permanently posted on the website.
I wouldn't, I think it seems very appropriate, so. Don't think there's an issue.
Then people would know. I think it's a good idea. Thank you. I think we'll do a lot of work on this. It looks good. So if we adopt that, with the alteration of the meeting time to 4 o'clock, we should be good to go, right? And we still record.
4 PM for board meetings, continue recording. We'll come up with a Zoom trial to see how that works and what the involvement is. Look for best practices across other districts on website communications. Putting the board meeting in the newsletter, emailing West Valley staff the agenda. Work sessions happen at 7 AM on the 4th Thursday of each month in Richard and Maryland to develop topics rather than a formal agenda for the work sessions. That's right. Did I capture everything?
Yes. I think so too.
Could I add something or just ask something
Yes.
about the WVTA? During that time, during the meetings, oftentimes teachers give presentations. And I'm wondering if that time would be better at a work session, or would you like to keep that time during the actual regular board meeting where teachers are getting up and, or do you want to see that continue, I guess, too? Because in the past, we've had a sign up where teachers talk about what they're doing. I guess sometimes students come too, so if it was early in the morning, that might not be.
I think we should keep it.
Okay, keep it. I was just thinking,
Yeah.
if you're trying to streamline.
Right, I know what
Your
you're saying, but
meetings a
I
little
think they
bit?
can be different, maybe, where.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
sounds good. We'll keep it during that time and we'll keep doing it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it, to me, everybody, you know, our meetings do go on, I admit that. But I want people to leave here feeling like we've had a good meeting, everybody's had a chance to say what they think. And I want our board members to feel like we're always willing to listen and have a conversation, even at a board meeting. Even though it may drag on, in some, but you know, we've had prior board meetings where they've just been, it's been very structured, and I'm not comfortable with that so much, but we'll see if we can speed along, but not at the
Keep it
expense,
during that.
not at the
Okay.
expense of having, the teachers come forth with some. I think, speaking for us.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I'd love to get more kids here too, some
Okay.
from classrooms and stuff.
We'll get those middle schoolers.
Middle
on it.
schoolers, yeah.
I love it.
I
Yeah.
think would love that.
I think once again, then when, you know, when we're starting to get, this will be on our, well, it'll all be recorded. And then, you know, once we start to generate this levy enthusiasm, if we have kids, that always helps.
So yeah, I guess one point of clarification is like working sessions won't be like. Historically, they don't usually take minutes or record or anything like that. It's more informal. So.
We'll do exactly what work sessions and things.
Yeah.
We're not going to try to embellish.
Yeah. I think it's exciting.
So, okay, we need a motion.
I guess motion to continue recording our regularly scheduled board meetings. And then a new start time of 4 p.m. as well as an addition of working sessions.
I'll second that. Will the 4 p.m. start on the next meeting?
Yes. Yeah, yes. We need to say we're gonna adopt this schedule with the change of the 5:30 p.m. to 4 o'clock. Basically, what we're adopting is your schedule, the meeting time changed from 5:30. We have a motion.
We just need to vote if there's not discussion.
Those are the two things that are in the policy that we want to change. So going from
Yes.
5 to 4, and in the policy, it says if a recording is, and so we're saying that we will be recording these meetings. Everything else is kind of procedural. I think I can capture that in minutes and we can sort of follow up. Does that make sense? Okay, so those are two sort of rock solid
Right.
motions there. I think would be
And
nice.
we need to get that to MDSBA so that they get it on that they keep a record of our board minutes or our board policy for us. We need to make sure they get that so they can change it in our board policy going
Yeah,
forward.
yeah.
Because that's what had been done before.
Right.
Okay, are there any further discussion on that? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, unanimous. Next, review and approve Alicia Hamilton.
Did anyone second that? Just trying to get the.
Oh,
I did.
Matt,
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah.
You did? Okay, so we got.
You're Matt now.
That
That way, we don't need Mark 1 and Mark 2 now. We just Mark and Matt.
Got it.
Right?
All right, review and approve Alicia Hamilton interim principal contract.
Yeah, so I can speak to this. So Jeff and I kind of worked on this together. Stephanie on the outs, kind of coming in as she saw fit. Basically, essentially, all we did was take the principal contract that we'd had, dropped it in, changed the dates because we're so late in this, and then use the salary schedule that we have for principals. So it's at year 0, and that comes out to 86,017 contractual year. So that's 210 days.
Motion to approve Alicia Hamill's interim principal contract.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor of approving Alicia Hamill's interim principal contract?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, unanimous. Reason. Okay, review and approve Terra Measure Community Fitness Contract. That was not here. I understand, Mark, or Richard, do you want to address this? There's we have to have a certain
Yeah,
amount.
yeah, there's a
of this
component where we
community-
have that adult ed. and
Yeah, there we
This
go.
fits that,
It's not an option.
yeah.
Even though we might wanna cut programs on account of the budget, but we can't according to law. We have
This
to,
has specific funding
Right, yes,
specifically
exactly.
for that adult education.
Yeah.
so it doesn't come out of the general.
Do we get good participation in
I
that?
think it varies. We've had as, little as like 2-3 people, but I mean, I've seen some, people working hard in there. I mean, I really don't have a lot of data for you how, numbers wise, but it's,
It's
Yeah.
staff and community members pull to show up to it.
Oh, nice.
But not very many. I mean, it's very few. So if we were gonna be able to say how effective really is this, and is it something we should cut to the general budget? We might have to do that, but where it's a separate budget, and it's something we have to do by law, we probably need to do it.
Motion to approve Terra Measures Community Fitness Contract?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Not unanimous. Okay, review and approve Claudia Anderson's new teacher mentor extracurricular stipend. And Claudia just gave us a really good presentation of everything she does. So, we have her extracurricular stipend contract here. So that she gets paid for the extra time she spends mentoring her teachers.
Motion to approve Claudia Anderson's new teacher mentor extracurricular stipend contract.
Is that's in the budget, Jeff?
Correct.
Okay. All right,
Yes, it is.
okay,
I'll second.
all right. Then motion and seconded. Anybody, care to make a comment? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Consideration of hiring Brittany Nelson for food services and review approval of contract. Okay, do you want to address that?
yeah, it's more of a formality. Again, we had to bring her on for board approval just because kids needed to eat, kitchen, or in the lunchroom. So, yeah, things are going really well in the kitchen right now, so she's a great fit.
Okay. Motion.
I'll make a motion to hire Brittany Nelson for food service aid.
Second.
Okay, ready for the discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Review, approve, and sign Desmond DPA. Do you know about that, Richard?
Kat?
She was here, but then she left.
Okay, so we have to have a DPA agreement in place for basically anything we use here at West Valley where students have to log in. And so essentially, this is just the approval of that DPA that she ran through MTSBA. So, yeah, I know that sounds like alphabet soup. It's A-OK. Yeah. ASAP.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve and sign the Desmond's DPA.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor of approving the DPA? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Approval of disposing and removal of surplus Acer chromases. Also like a cap. Richard.
Yeah, so these were the units that we purchased during COVID that were larger and touchscreen. So we felt that younger kids could better navigate the screen versus a mouse pad on a laptop or, a mouse that they move with their hands. And we've gotten rid of our, computer lab as it were, and replace that with art. So they're not being used in there. And that used to house like 25, 27 of them. Some teachers are using them in their classrooms, not all the teachers. Mostly it's kindergarten, I think, and maybe first grade here and there, but there's a lot left over. And again, it was one of those things that we purchased during COVID because we thought, well, maybe if kids could, navigate some of their learning on a bigger screen. But we found that they were pretty clunky because you still kind of needed a keyboard at times, and I mean, they weren't as good as we thought they were going to be. So we really phased out the usage and let teachers kind of grab onto them if they wanted to, but we're really not using them at all. So, I think she said she was gonna try to get something out of them, maybe have people, if they want to, combine for $50, $100, get something out of them, but even then, we might not be able to, so that's why it says disposal to, maybe removal, so that we can just kind of get those off of our inventory.
Yeah, I put disposing versus room, so these are not obsolete. They also are not on our fixed asset listing, so there's no capital to pay tax on. These were treated as an expense item, probably not correctly. They should, right? And so I think Kat is amazing. She does a great job of putting tags, fixed asset tags on depreciable assets. These were, it wasn't done. So when I looked at this, there's nothing to write off for us. These were items that were bought with public funds, and so according to this MCA 20-6-604, we have to then offer those up to the public for sale for a period of, I think it's 4 to 6 weeks. So we have to advertise that before we do anything. It's basically, she doesn't have enough room to store these things and people aren't using them.
Yeah.
And they've been treated as an expense item, so we're not paying tax with them.
Do we know how many there are?
We've got results. Is it 18 or something like that?
Yeah, I think she's trying to get rid of them. Yeah, I think there's more than that.
How big are they? There's something like
They're like,
this,
I
and
mean,
she's
like
just,
2.5
she's
feet.
like, I'm gonna throw them out, and you can't throw them out,
Right.
you have to recognize.
And they're not, what Mark was saying, they're not obsolete,
Yeah.
so that's a different, that's a different thing. We have to do this.
Do you know how much they cost individually when they purchase them?
I don't, no, I have no record of. these
I'm
things.
just wondering
Yeah.
what people even pay for them,
Right.
Yeah,
because,
Yeah.
maybe they're only worth $25 or something.
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But essentially, they're not being used, so.
How are we gonna advertise those? Are you gonna put those in the paper?
Yeah,
that we have.
yeah, unless we can do something on the website, I think traditionally, we put stuff in the paper and just.
Are there other schools that might be interested in using them?
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe probably all in the same boat.
Yeah.
Everybody has extra computers coming out of COVID.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve this disposal or removal of surplus Acer Chromebooks.
Second.
Is there any more discussion? We'll assume that between Kat and Mark, then that we'll get it out there to the public. Even if we have to put them out in the middle of the foyer there and for sales sign on them, whatever it takes. Okay, is there any further discussion on that? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Review and approve the FICO preventative maintenance agreement renewal. Now,
Yeah.
Phil never comes to these meetings to explain this to us, so Richard,
Yeah, so he gives me a heads up usually about this stuff, and it's again, it's kind of a formality. We already have this in place and we're already using them to service it for us. They went through last month anyway, because we basically needed it to happen, and they license all of that equipment and things like that, so.
and I think that am I right that, a couple of months ago, we introduced the idea that maybe we should look around for another maintenance agreement, and it turns out we're not able to do that because of the equipment that
Yeah,
we have.
something that
It's
sounds easy, but it's
specific to
not.
this.
Yeah, when this was pushed through, this was a huge commitment.
Right,
It's not like something you can just go shop for.
and the equipment we have, these people have the copyright on it, right on the main.
Yeah, so we'd have to change out all of our units.
So,
This is for HVAC.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So are they fixing those AC units that are down?
Yeah, they're trying. I don't know if they, because some of our stuff is so. Well, I don't want to, I mean, old, I guess, or not even old, but just.
It has
used.
character.
It has character,
Well,
yeah.
from 2001.
Yeah, I mean, these are old, yeah, and we're gonna have to look at some heating units too on the roof that are gonna cost a lot, almost 400,000 or so.
Mm.
But yeah, that we're not gonna talk about it because then it'll go away. You've thought about it. So, but yeah, it'll have to be done soon because these are pretty old systems.
And does that, like, does that force us to continue that? I mean, I would assume that if we've got FICO
Mhm.
and a couple FICO things go down, you're gonna need to buy more FICO rather than scrapping everything.
Yeah, I
Like,
can't
is that,
speak to it at that specific
Okay.
of a level.
okay,
I think moving forward, facilities are gonna be part of work sessions. Let's
Okay.
Put it that way.
perfect.
So what do they do for that $600 a year? maybe?
They give us a boiler licensed person to come work on that. They monitor the usage in Great Falls. So if, like, I guess if there's a classroom with a temperature that isn't either high enough or, heated high enough, then it'll turn on all of the blowers. If it's almost, then it'll have like one or two on. And I don't understand it well enough. I've just seen Phil's screen where there's like 36 heaters and they've got red and green lights going on and sometimes there'll be one that just shuts down and then others will try to make the work up for it. So they are with that software. So it's more than just the unit, it's the computers behind the unit it also need work. So if something is glitchy, then they try to fix the part that's glitchy with the computers.
But if something like went out on one of the units, that we would have to pay for extra.
No,
Right,
I
I
think,
mean-
no, they come in and work.
Oh, really?
Yeah, or not come in, but they either remotely work on it to solve a problem, or if they have to and it is a physical unit issue, then they do.
And that
Yeah.
doesn't cost us any extra.
I don't think so, unless it goes above a certain amount, but Phil would have that number, but I just don't know enough about it yet to.
What are Phil's hours?
Um, so Phil works, I think, from 7 or as needed, sometimes earlier than that in the winter to check roads. Until about 2:30 to 3, because
Okay.
he cannot get overtime,
Okay,
so,
so Phil might be able to
yeah,
give us a little schooling
Yes,
on
on
FICO in
yes,
a work session.
exactly,
Okay.
yes. And I do have the paperwork, Mark, if you're interested,
Yeah.
I've got it to.
Are you familiar with HVAC more than the rest of us?
Oh, not really. I'm a structural engineer, but
Maybe we'll have to enlist your expertise in, yeah. That'll be, we'll put that as a topic for a work session, definitely.
Yeah, and we're
needs
gonna
to
have
be.
to start talking about some
Right.
facilities stuff, because there's parts of our roof too that are gonna need, that might start leaking here. There's some pretty rough spots.
Motion to approve the FICO preventative maintenance agreement. Renewal.
second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's a unanimous. Okay, review and approve the 23-24 middle school student handbook. Tina, you address this week or it's here for us to approve?
It is just an updated version of last year.
Sure.
There are updates required and recommended by MTSBA, and some of the things that we faced in the last year would have been, it would have been better if the information had been in the handbook and more accessible to families and students. There's elements that should have been in there that are there now, I guess. You know, as policies keep changing. It's just an updated version from the MTSBA. There's a lot of information in there. The leadership team worked on specific changes that are for our school that didn't come from the MTSBA that were related to the dress code was one of them. And the other is part of the grading practices. So on our grading in the past, a student with many missing assignments might end up with, a grade in the end of insufficient evidence. They can end up with an IE, insufficient evidence, because we didn't have what it takes to know, do they have what, do they have that, standard down or not? Just saying they failed really may not be true, because we know, there are very famous people who were students that didn't turn anything and knew everything. They didn't turn anything in, right? So we looked at that though, and just, after listening to parents and the outcomes of that for some students, just to get an insufficient evidence, for not all parents understood really what that meant, and maybe didn't act how they would have if they realized the child had failed the course because of their inaction. So we placed the option, we've always had a pass-fail option on there, but we made it more clear that if the student doesn't perform in the class, it could be deemed that they get an F for the course. So even though it's standards-based grading, your final course, you might have insufficient evidence and missing assignments for a long time, but your final outcome could be a fail on that course. We left it open enough. We've had students with either family needs, social issues going on, or health needs, where we understand why the child is missing certain things, and we do our best to try to assess that. And if we really can't, then we leave that insufficient evidence. It's just something also to make sure that we're being clear to other schools when a student leaves here and goes to another school, where they were at on it, because I might not have all that information. It's much better to know the child failed with a note that it was due to lack of participation, or they had insufficient evidence for lack of access. So that was a change on there. The dress code change was asking for specificity on like the lengths of garments. So what is too short? I guess I'll just be literal, and why, and so the leadership team looked at that, and they really try to have a policy, any of you can jump in on this, that is, it's non-gendered, it's for everybody. It's one dress code that goes for everybody. And they're asking, one of the things is just asking for mid-thigh length on outfits. So I guess I will demonstrate this, but I don't mind. To teach the children that where our thighs begin is where we bend. And this is our knee, and it should come halfway in between there at least, right? So having that would take out the question of, well, this is short, well, someone else is wearing that, and it becomes like an argument. It's fairly clear. This is the expectation for boys and girls. Then we just have that right there. So working in a middle school environment, I guess, is it's interesting, I tell my staff it bothers me just that we all share the same chairs, and I can't imagine it not being covered and sitting on someone else's sweaty feet.
Oh my God.
I look at the dirt on the seat. I'm just like, kids will say, "Boy, this seat is warm" when they sit down. And I think, well, yeah, someone just sat there the last hour. So I just think it becomes, this is their day job. This is their school job, and they will face requirements at any other job that they go to, unless they're self-employed, and then they still might be limited by how they choose to present themselves. But I think their private and personal areas should be covered, and we have basically drawn a rectangle that says from here, to put your thumbs here, from here to your mid-thigh should be covered. And we sent it out to parents. I didn't have comment from parents. I sent it out. I haven't heard from any. I could. We have, kids call it getting dress coded, and the option is to put their PE uniform on. In the past, maybe they would call their parents, but then they might wait and lose instruction. And the whole point is not to lose instruction over what you're wearing. If they have an appropriate PE uniform on here, they can put that on. And we are always sensitive to outstanding issues, or, we can read a child who's in some sort of distress over something and take care of that in the moment if there's something needy. Anything else change on the dress code? Yeah, just the old thing. Yeah. Oh, shirts. And there's a picture. Shirts. Well, yes, we tried to enlarge the picture. We had a picture, but it was
right
small.
out there.
Shirts and tops must fit reach the top of their pants.
Oh.
So we know that midi shirts, or what all do you call the short shirts? Crop tops are in style, that's the fashion, but we don't wanna have to determine what is too short on that crop, same as the shorts. We don't want to be in that position, so parents should have their kids covered from armpit to mid-thigh. So. I think I've talked to a few kids, they can express other fashion choices and outside of here, and most of them seem to be able to accomplish what we've asked them to, so.
I think that's enlightened. I think you did a good job. That's a tough
Yeah.
call to make. That's a really tough call. I think that's good.
There weren't a lot of other changes unless there's something that you're questioning that you've read through, anything in there that you know, well, those two things were mostly in response to what we've heard from parents. Adults in the building, it's a K-8 school and we're just trying to be K-8 appropriate. New things will open up when they get to the high school next year. So,
Way too many new things.
so
So many.
we felt it was doable. Any questions that you have on any part of the handbook?
No, thank you for that.
No, thank you. Thank you to that, with your committee that.
Yeah, there's, the leadership team works on those
There you
things
go.
and represent the teachers from different, groupings of teachers, so.
Sure. Thank you to them too, be sure to express our thank you. It takes time and we appreciate that.
Motion to approve the 23-24 middle school student handbook.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Okay, review and approve that elementary school student handbook. Alicia.
Well, it looks very similar to last year's, except for kind of same thing with updated policies that were needed, so. Looking at Tina kind of show me hers and see kind of the changes that she made. And the policies that she put in hers, and then was able to kind of go through what we already had and figure out where those gaps were. And then what was applicable to elementary and what wasn't, so they do look different, but we can kind of go through and see, which things fit for elementary. But all of the policies that we should have in there should be in ours as well, so.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023-2024 elementary school student handbook.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous. Consideration to approve hire of Sherry Hand. And coaching contract. Approval of Sherry Hand, and coaching contract, 7th grade volleyball coach. So she is now teaching music, right? So now she wants to coach volleyball.
Yes.
Yes. Is the and in there?
Is that a mistake? I mean, is that a? Okay.
I think it's just,
It should
The hire
be,
Sherry Hand.
and it should just be.
yeah, and approve the
approval of
contract,
Sherry and coaching contract, right?
because it would just be the.
Oh, oops.
We need to eliminate the and.
Yeah, it's just her contract. Oh, well, yeah, it was to approve the hire for and her coaching contract. Yeah, it's. Obviously, I taught science, not ELA.
Oh, my God. I see what it's gonna be.
Right.
As if the two are separate entities.
Motion to approve Sherry Ham's coaching contract for 7th grade volleyball.
I'll second that.
Okay, is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, unanimous. Okay, information item.
A couple things just on contract updates. So as written, the contracts were all supposed to be signed or accepted or not accepted by Friday, the 8th. So today is the first school day after that. All administration, since we got Alicia's done, is complete. All classified staff are complete. We just have one outstanding teacher who's teaching who does not have a contract because she doesn't have a license. I don't know if you guys want to talk about that situation.
It's a long story, but
I think,
we've kind of talked about it
yeah,
before.
I think we put that, leave that Richard and Mark's
Yeah.
hands. It's a question of getting the right forms from the right
Right, and she had
state aid.
things,
It's not like
yeah.
it's not like she's not gonna be
right, yeah.
certified. It's just that
Right.
there's a little, few little
There
glitches.
was some confusion with her background check and fingerprints and the timing of that and what she had for student teaching versus what carried over.
And then we got COVID involved in there where there's, not that she had COVID, but it was
Yeah,
COVID that things took longer than they should have.
yeah, they changed the system of licensure and OPI too, right at
Yeah.
the same time. So it's just a perfect storm of things that happen there.
And she's a good student, she's a good teacher, what, second year?
Yeah, this is her
She's still
second
under
year.
the 60 day at this point, correct?
So she's gonna be paid as a sub up until the time when she gets her license, and then we'll switch over to contract, and I'll just change the date on the contract there. Just want to make sure everyone was aware of that. And that was the night information. I don't think you said, right? These are just information items.
Yeah,
Second thing I do want to bring to people's attention, it's probably something to start thinking about for a working session, is that in the new negotiated contract, Jeff remembers this, we tried to think about how we could be more proactive and thoughtful with respect to our health insurance or our health benefits here. Most other schools use a health insurance committee. The way it's written in our contract is that I chair the committee. It has 2 board members, 2 certified staff members, and 2 classified staff members. And this is the second biggest category of spend that we have at the school. So, and it impacts everybody's in one way or another. So just want to bring that to people's attention. We're going to be looking for representation from the board, from the certified staff, and also from classified staff to make this happen this year. I'll start getting that group together.
So you're gonna take, like, finding out candidates for this committee.
I will do my best and so report on that, yes. So that will be a perfect.
This is just to let us know what's about to happen, and anybody who is interested, like maybe Jeff. Would be willing to serve on this health insurance board.
Yeah, if you remember what happened last year, we waited till the last minute
That's
and
right.
we pushed a bunch of stuff through. We made a lot of really good changes, but it was a 2-minute offense we don't want to do again. So we want to have this all ready in time for people to sign up for benefits right before school ends. So, yep,
How does that state health insurance
good question.
option for teachers?
Still out there. They haven't funded that
Okay.
quite yet, and that is at least 2 years out, as I
Okay.
understand it. So that is a great question. It seems like it's a benefit that would really help teachers and help us, but it's not in the cards quite yet, as I understand. So good question.
One of those things the legislature did, but didn't really dot the i's and cross the t's.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that. There was a ton of excess money and they decided not to. I think we were looking for $20-30 million to fund it, something like that.
Yeah.
They said no.
So we'll just have to. Well,
So we're on our own until that's an option.
wait, somebody will get their act together on that. Okay,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you, Alicia. And to that,
Thank you.
to the very end.
And Miss Claudius too.
Thank you, yes. Thank you for everybody for sticking around. I know it got late.
I can come in late tomorrow, right? That's what
Yeah.
You're at time.
Yeah.